Very honored to be here today to kind of share some stories from uh, being a Unity person porting to Android XR and Vision OS. You're probably wondering, who is this guy? This is an alchemy pun because we have Al in our title. Uh, and I am Phillip Johnson. I'm a lead platform engineer for Owlchemy Labs. I'm going to go through a little bit of my history. I've been at it for about 18 years now. I started at Ubisoft, Red Storm Entertainment. Worked on Ghost Recon Future Soldier, Far Cry 4, and probably my favorite title there, Rocksmith 2014, which is still a great way to learn how to play guitar. I went indie for a little bit. I made a game called Battle Sloths. We got picked up by Rooster Teeth as a publisher, and we shipped on Steam and Switch. After that, as you can guess, it's hard to make money as an indie developer. I went back into the workforce and joined Panic Button as a gameplay engineer. And we did what is known as the impossible ports for the Nintendo Switch. We ported Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal and Wolfenstein to the Nintendo Switch. We have a very, very good team there. Um, and I was kind of the gameplay guy, so I was kind of making sure that the game would be fun and something that you could actually play with those tiny little Joy-Cons. We also worked on Subnautica, Hob, Torchlight 2, Fallout 4, and Skyrim. And I did the motion aiming for Doom, which is maybe one of my prouder game dev moments. I think it was very well received. And I think that it is something that for me, I think is one of my better contributions to the game industry. I think that motion aiming is very, very cool, and I always look for it, especially on PlayStation games now. I'm also a filmmaker. I made an independent film last year called Easy Digging. It's about a man who digs a hole to China with a shovel. It's shot on a $3,000 budget, and it's all like all done with improv actors here in Austin, Texas. I'm very proud of it. Also a musician. Last year, they brought me out to Taiwan to go dress as a cowboy and play Beatles songs. It was probably I had a very strange year last year. And you might be wondering, you're probably not wondering, but I'm going to go ahead and make the joke. Who are Alchemy Labs? We're an XR studio based in Austin, Texas, founded in 2010. Right now, we're work from home, technically based anywhere in the world now. I work in their black site, which is where we keep all of our new hardware. Um, we like to focus on stylized, accessible, and funny XR experiences, and we really focus on VR for everyone. So we actually have like accessibility specialists in our group. And that really helps kind of make sure that we're kind of covering our bases. Here are some of our games. We got Job Simulator, Vacation Simulator, Rick and Morty Virtual Reality, Cosmania's High. Dimensional Double Shift is our newer title. And Inside Job is a pack-in game for the Android XR Galaxy XR headset. And Dimensional Double Shift is off to a good start. Actually, this is the old slide that we're actually doing way better now. Um, and Inside Job was a very cool experience. It's about 10, 15 minutes. If you have the Galaxy XR, it's actually included with your headset. So go check it out. It's free. It's almost like a stealth follow-up to Job Simulator in a way. And platforms. We are on a lot of platforms. That's kind of part of our VR for everyone strategy is that we're on as many platforms as we can possibly get our grubby little mitts on. We're on the Pico, MetaQuest, PlayStation VR, PlayStation VR 2. We're on Steam VR, Android XR, and more to come. Yeah, this is pretty cool. And that's kind of my job. My job is to kind of make sure all these games run on as many headsets as possible. And so we're going to do like a how do they handle all those platforms? And these are going to be kind of like we're going to start with like really generic tips, and then we're going to get down to stuff that's more specific for the porting. And then at the end, we're going to kind of talk about a few kind of case stories for each platform. So, we can't really meaningfully do a super, super deep dive on something like this, but I think that if you're picking up these sort of techniques and just like mindset, I think it will make your life a lot easier. Um, so I'm going to start off with the 10 nuggets of multi-platform wisdom. Y'all like nuggets, right? And if you don't, that's fine. But at least take the wisdom. We're going to go through 10 of them, and we'll go ahead and get started here. Platform agnostic code is very important, and I'm going to have more on this later because there's a very cool development at Unity for their new engine update. Um, but yeah, having all of your code scattered, having all your code combined, and you're trying to handle everything here in like one big function call is very problematic. You can end up making your code way too busy and it becomes a maintainability nightmare. And I haven't posted the code here because we're usually under NDA. I can't post that stuff, so I made some pseudocode. Um, but yeah, you normally, if you don't make it platform agnostic, you're something like as simple as achievement unlock is going to be a function call that's like thousands of lines of code. And so you really want to break that up. And so you want to have an achievement provider, and that really makes it a lot easier because then you're providing that per platform, and it really helps with like minimizing the touch points in the game code. And so if you need to change something or add another platform, you're really just adding a provider, and that makes it more portable. Because we can take this achievement manager and provider, and we can just take that over to Vacation Simulator. We could take it over to DDS, and that makes maintainability across several games and several platforms way, way easier. Our next nugget, debug hands. We have a way to basically play the game without the headset on, and that's always helpful to be able to kind of basically play anything without having to have a big sweaty headset on all the time is very good. Um, you also want to be able to isolate certain problems that you're seeing in your games. That you might see problems that are only happening on your headset, but it's always great to be able to have a couple more places where you can go investigate that issue. We have a core loader and platform loader. So we were able to kind of basically keep everything in one place here. And, we have all of our different individual needs. Like if we need to initialize different platforms on Steam, or if we need to initialize things on Sony or the Android XR, we can do that all here. And we don't have to get split up into separate scenes or anything like that. That makes it a lot simpler. We also have emulation modes. So we use this to basically simulate the game on other in the editor usually. And that kind of helps when we're trying to isolate things like, we're trying to do certification for Sony and they are kicking things back because they don't like the language that we're using, or we need to make sure that we're adhering to their naming conventions. So having emulation mode makes it a lot easier to jump around and fix things that are kind of separate for different platforms. Prefab variants, if you're a Unity developer and you don't know about these are very cool, very useful. If you're only having to change one or two things for Android XR or PlayStation, you can just make a variant, and then you're just kind of changing what you need to change instead of having to make a copy of a prefab. Hand tracking is also something that's part of our multi-platform strategy because we don't have to develop input for several controllers. Instead, we just use our hands, and we kind of find that to be we have less tutorials. We have a more unified input system, um, and less certification specific variants. Um, and I think that if you search for any interviews with Andrew Ike, our boss, he has lots of talks on hand tracking and why he thinks it helps with accessibility and makes games simpler to approach. Now, hand tracking can't do everything. This is our boss. I have this picture of Andrew Ike in a hot dog suit, and I will use it pretty much anywhere I can. But go look him up on Google. You'll find him talking about hand tracking a lot. Um, and of course, hand tracking isn't good for everything. Like it's really hard to do like a really fast-paced shooter. But for basic interaction and puzzles and things of that nature, hand tracking is fantastic. And actually keep forgetting because I'm so used to using hand tracking in our games. Every time I put on the headset and try something else and ask me for my controller, I'm like, oh wow. I'm kind of having to like juggle all this hardware all over again. Um, so I'm liking this direction for our industry. OpenXR, this is probably a given at this point. I think a lot of developers already moved over to OpenXR, but this is a great for cross-platform portability. Um, instead of making your implementation per platform, you can just implement for OpenXR. That makes it a lot easier to support. And we're already on uh, several devices. This is an old image, but we can add Android XR to this list, obviously. Um, and I think that this moves the amount of hand tracking controller code we need to deal with tremendously. I think prior to this, we would have to do lots of platform specific implementation, and now we have a more unified system. So uh, we're definitely in our future titles, we've already pretty much are going 100% OpenXR and really only do implementations for platforms as needed. And we're just hoping that more people are supporting OpenXR moving forward. Um, yeah, it's just kind of uh, just showing how easy it is to turn stuff on for Quest. Yeah, XR plugin management is very simple. Something else that's nice, the quality levels and map limit groups. This is something that I did for Vacation Simulator. We did like kind of a stealth HD update for it. We actually updated all the textures for Vacation Simulator. And you can add that to your texture. And then in your code, you can set the quality level if you're detecting your platform. And you really like right now we really need this on Android XR because right now Android is like has multiple headsets on it now. There's the Quest 2, Quest 1, Quest 3, Android XR. So being able to change this stuff dynamically at runtime is very useful. Build systems are very useful for platform development. Usually it'll let you know that if you've broken the game on other platforms. I used to work for Ubisoft. And let me tell you, when you break the game, you will hear about it very quickly. So it's like you're working on a project of about 1,000 people, um, and you'll get a message from someone on the other side of the world. So build systems are very good to kind of just make sure that we're finding those problems quickly. And it's also good to get clean builds from the store. There tends to be a lot of garbage on your computer to kind of just like corrupt your system over time. So having a build system that's kind of like left alone is a pretty good way to go. And it also reduces the workload providing builds to your QA or even for the store because you're not having to stop what you're doing to make the builds. And Unity has some build services. So if you don't want to set up your own build server, their cloud builds are very cool. I use them on Battle Slots a lot. That's a great question, Justin. We'll save that for later. Uh, Oh, and for certification, I think that I mostly want to say this about platforms like Sony, because you really don't get snagged on certification as much on platforms like Meta or Apple, but on Sony they're very strict about like everything has to be localized, everything has to have precisely the correct words. There's tons of rules that you need to be following, especially if you're online. So if you do need to go through certification, give lots of time for certification on major platforms. I recommend 2 months if possible. Cert failures could require a localization pass, and that turnaround might take a week, depending on your resources. So try to get through cert early. And those are my 10 nuggets of multi-platform wisdom. This is only one part of this talk, though. I gave this talk at Unity last year, so you're getting my secret talk. Um, I gave this as like at a party at GDC last year. Nuggets. Nice, tasty nuggets of goodness. I hope that those are useful for you. I'm kind of curious if you never thought to do things that way, I'd like to hear about it. And if you are Maybe it's an old hat for you too. I hope it is because then that would mean that we're growing as an industry and making better code. Okay, old workarounds and new bugs. I want to talk about, yes, helpful nuggets. I want to talk about the mindset that goes into supporting older games on new platforms. There's lots of role models in our industry. You got John Carmack, you got Kojima, who's one of my favorites, and John Romero, also a hero of for American game developers. And you got Will Wright, but who is my role model in my line of work as a platform engineer that does ports and supporting old titles? That'd probably be Indiana Jones because I think that when you're supporting a game that's been in development for 10 years, your work becomes more like archaeology than development. Um, so you're thinking about doing that upgrade, right? Looks tempting. Yeah, if you want to, well, if you want them ports, you got to do the upgrade. All right. You want to be on Quest, you want to Quest 3 with hand tracking, you want PlayStation VR 2, you want to hit the Chinese market and get on the Pico or do Android XR, you got to be upgrading Unity. And it should be pretty simple. I mean, you got to kind of weigh things out. It should be easy to kind of switch over. I mean, it look the same. But you know that you can run into trouble pretty quickly depending on how big of a jump that you're making. So this is the version change threat level. And here's a real Unity version number for authenticity. I'm not calling out one specific version of Unity just to, in particular, but 6000.2.13 F1, this is the version we're using right now. So from, if you're just changing a patch release, you can do this in your sleep. No problem. If you're doing a minor change, that's pretty easy too. You got this. You've been through this before. It might take a little bit of work, but it's the major releases that are the boulder chasing you down the tunnel. I think that's where you tend to get into a lot of trouble. We actually updated from 2022 to 6. To get to that later in the talk. Um, but porting often involves understanding old code, engine changes, and package changes. So you're really hunting around a lot. You'll find old code and you'll be wondering, why is it done this way? And I think that asking the why there is usually involves a lot of history because the engine might have had things that weren't working at the time. So we have to do a lot of workarounds. Here's a really cool feature from Unity. It's in its alpha, but the release notes.ds.unity 3D. I know a lot of people that don't know about this, but this thing is amazing. Like you can set the version note to like years and years ago. It'll show you every single change that has happened in Unity as the delta between the origin change set and the destination version. And you'll find tons and tons of notes, depending on how big of a jump you're making. Even just jumping one version, you'll have like 100 or 200 notes. But if you're jumping major versions, you're looking at hundreds of thousands of changes that have probably gone into the engine. Um, and also, like, you have to dig in a little bit deeper because the packages have also updated and they have their own change set history. Um, And so, I wish this is kind of older because this is Oculus. We're moving away from the Oculus XR plugin, but we still use it on Job Simulator because, we do follow the if it ain't broke, don't fix it sort of mentality. And at some point, we will have to leave it behind because it's deprecated. So even Unity has recommended moving on to OpenXR. Um, so here's one of our game dev stories. This is a cross-platform issue, actually. We moved from 2023 to 6 for the Android XR update, and recentering broke on pretty much all of our games. Um, and Job Simulator is very old at this point. We're kind of at the dawn of commercial VR, and we've been there for almost every single step forward in the industry. So we were there back when it was, putting the sensors up in the corner, the light towers, and then we had the inside out tracking. So that got made everything more accessible. We had everything that used to be on a PC, now it's on a mobile device. Um, and so I'm actually a newer employee. I joined 3 years ago. So everything for me at this company is archaeology. A lot of the previous team members are just gone. And it does seem that what I discovered is that our old recentering solution might have been a workaround. We have a very complicated view reset manager script that involves like just having to calculate the player's position and uh, what I kind of maybe what I realize here is that we usually don't wait. Alchemy doesn't wait. We don't wait for things to work. We usually will kind of go out and make our own solution. And so sometimes workaround can become a new bug because the Unity engine changes and the package changes, and sometimes you get things that are introduced that will make things more complicated or will break old solutions. And so here I am. I'm looking through the release notes, and then I found something that jumped out at me in the Oculus VR package notes. And I was like, oh, okay, well, there's something with the tracking origin type. And so I realized that, oh, we actually need to change our origin type. It's been like this for probably a decade. So, um, kind of embarrassing. It ended up being one change, but it's something that has been really bugging our players a lot. So I'm really happy that we're able to fix that. But it's just kind of amazing at how like one small change will fix like a really nasty bug sometimes. So I had like a One Punch Man to my group of heroes because more often than not, pretty much all of my oh good. Someone in chat said they just fixed that on their app. Yeah, good. Glad to hear that. Pretty much all of my changes at this company look like this. Like I'll be like investigating a bug, and then it's just like one line of code. So One Punch Man is kind of like my role model. And you're probably wondering, here's another role model of mine. Is it one of those cool game devs? No, I'm talking about Columbo, man. Anyone here a fan of Columbo, the detective series in the 1960s? He's a detective. He'll go out and, basically the way the show is structured, they'll show the murder and then Columbo will show up and kind of pretend like he doesn't know what's going on. And he's collecting all this information and basically he's a character that's always hiding his power level. I think that's what makes Columbo so much fun to watch. And eventually he is kind of sneakily uh, making the bad guys panic and freak out and confess. And I think that Columbo would have been a great fit for Persona 5. So maybe we'll get Columbo in Persona 6. We'll see. But he's a great character and a totally fun to watch. So when you're becoming the detective, uh, you got a nasty bug. Who's the culprit? Is it me? It usually ends up being me. That's kind of the first person I'm ready to judge. I'll work on myself first, and then I'll judge our code, and then it spirals out to the engine, and then it's the platform, and then it might be early hardware. So there's many things that could be going wrong, especially when you're porting and you have early access. Um, so you got to get ready to be able to capture a lot of data. You want to be able to do when you're capturing data, you want to be able to compare a version where things worked with the latest version that you're trying to test on. You want to be doing performance captures and capture videos and images of behavior. And I think it really helps to make a bare bones sample. I think that we have made um, we were working on Android XR and even Apple. We had like a standalone version of the game last year on Android XR. The game was running at like we had a standalone sample of just the hands and it was running at 50 frames a second. And we were just like saying like, hey, this is not acceptable. We need to fix this. And it turned out to be like some sort of pacing thing. 'Cause they were able to fix it on the platform side. But of course, we need to be able to provide evidence and to provide information so that they can show that to their people and say, hey, there's a one of the developers working on the platform found a serious problem, and here's all the evidence supporting that claim. And so here's the vibe you have when you have a pretty good ticket case. You have a pretty good case and you're opening a support ticket. I don't like to be that guy, but it does feel good. It takes a lot of work to collect that information and to write bug reports. To say here he says, actually, there's one more thing. I've noticed that there's a 2 millisecond per frame drop in performance when we move to the latest version of Unity. That's something that's happening to us right now. So, um, we're just in constant communication with Unity. The Apple Vision Pro also was very like we were there pretty close to the launch window. I don't think we made launch day. Um, but we had 30 hertz hands during the first version of the game that on that platform. And you know, like 30 hertz on a 90 hertz game resulted in a lot of bugs. We had to make a isolated sample to track this down. We discovered that the device would simply return nothing, 2 out of 3 frames. And so we were able to detect those frames and smooth them out with dead reckoning and caching old poses. We do have an article on it if you want to get into it. That's on gamedeveloper.com. Um, I'll leave it here for a second, and then you might have to just go type it in and go look at it later. Um, but we cached all the old poses too. So I think that we were able to solve the problem and ship. Like I said, we don't wait. If we can solve the problem ourselves, we want to try to be there at the launch window. But now they have 90 hertz hands as part of the Vision OS 2.0 update. So we had to rip out all of our workarounds. There was also a shader warm-up issue on the OS platform. This is another platform limitation. If you're rendering a frame and you haven't sent another frame in like I don't know what it's like 2 seconds or something, it will actually exit out of your application. Um, and so we had the workaround here was that we had to render all the shaders one at a time, and it created probably the most like horrendously painful loading sequence. And I had written a bunch of jokes to kind of like make it a little bit easier. So there's like as to go through. I don't know. Like I wrote like a 100 dumb little jokes to put in this loading bar. Galaxy XR, Android XR, the latest. Oh, hey, it's Columbo. You remember him? I put a VR headset on him. I hope y'all don't mind my these are all lovingly photoshopped by hand. I don't really do AI stuff very often. Maybe I should pick up some of that tech. Uh, when we first get the headset, like I said, it would run at 50 frames a second, but also overheat. And we started collaborating with the XR team. And we were able to monitor performance and temperature data and send reports back. And so this really helped with, because we had prototypes. And when we're dealing with those prototypes, we are often dealing with like GPUs and TPUs that don't have the proper thermals. So they will overheat. And that's something you need to be mindful of. Is that when you're doing a performance capture, like, is it overheating? You'll need that information too. So try to get good data. We did realize that the Unity default resolution was way high when we helped pin down this problem. We did make it. Unity ultimately changed the default resolution for their games on the platform, and I think that as they get performance gains, I'll probably tune that number. Um, on the early platform issues, your hands would just fly away, or your headset would lock up. There's all sorts of fun stuff that happens when you're working for prototype. Um, And I already talked about the 50 frames a second thing, so I'll skip that. We also got the work of the hand tracking specialists at Android XR to investigate hand tracking issues. And that was fun because they gave us access to a tool to capture hand tracking data from the cameras and send that in. So we actually had a connection with the person who works directly with the camera over at Samsung. That was very cool to be able to be involved with that. And they ended up making a new hand tracking mode for immersive games. So they call it hand tracking mode, prefer continuity. They actually put that in because of us. So if you're having trouble with Android XR, like not working the way that you like for hand tracking, maybe try this mode. And if not, if that still is something that you need help with, maybe reach out to them. Maybe they want to talk to you. Unity 6. This is a big upgrade for us. This is the team up of Indiana Jones and Columbo that we've been waiting for. I know I'd watch it. Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Unity update, and Columbo and the Unity support tickets. Okay, so we've gone from our previous version was 2022.3.27 F1, and we're moving to Unity 6. And obviously, we had done dozens of updates while we were moving over to Unity 6. This is just 6000.2.6 F2 is what we're on at the moment. And let me tell you, this story has got everything. I think that Unity 6 is got a lot of pressure on it. Half the games in the world are made with Unity. So that's exactly 1 gazillion games every year. I didn't research these numbers. There are more games made with Unity than there are grains of sand on Earth. And so I think that it's practically impossible to change anything about your engine without breaking someone's game. So I do have a lot of sympathy for our friends at Unity. You might be optimizing something, and then all of a sudden you're completely breaking someone else's game, or you're trying, you have to be able to move your engine forward. It's just kind of the purpose of having the major version updates. Those are usually the ones where they're changing something more fundamental about the game engine. And it's kind of amazing that we're able to even do this big of a jump without totally wrecking our game. So it's kind of, I'm very happy to say that it wasn't too bad. The physics was something that was a lot of promise for us. I believe it was a physics optimization that caused rigid body joints to only be processed on initialization. Anything with a joint in our game was very broken. Job Simulator has an adjustable layout system. So depending on the amount of floor space in the game, the player has to adjust to be the default play space in Job Simulator is about 5 meters, but it can go as small as 2 meters. And so we have a system in place that will reposition and scale objects accordingly. We finally discovered a 100% workaround, and we were able to get onto a video chat with some of the physics specialists at Unity, and we found a workaround. One Punch Man is back. This one change here probably knocked out probably 80% of our bugs, preceding all the connected bodies and all joints. We need to detect those joints and we need to reset it. Hopefully we'll get a better, more stable fix in the future. But if you're moving over to Unity 6 and you're running into physics issues, we are talking to them about those things. And maybe something like this would help. There's also cool stuff coming up for Unity. I'm very interested in the platform toolkit for Unity 6.3. I think that this is kind of long overdue, but now instead of me doing all the platform stuff for achievements, they are finally making the system themselves, and it should be something to be able to handle through plugins. And I'll handle accounts, save data, and achievements, and I'm sure a number of other things. But I think that I'm glad to see them finally do that and make things a little bit easier on us. And so those are kind of my three heroes here. I've got the archaeologist, the detective, and the One Punch Man. And more often than not, because the One Punch Man is how I end up solving a bug. It's just some dumb workaround. Uh, and now it's time for questions.
Amazing. Thank you, Philip, for your time. So
Yeah, there's
that's amazing. Like such a condensed way that did this. So we have actually a few questions. Can you see the questions so we can maybe answer some of them? Um, or I can read for you, Philip.
okay.
So Is it true that all shaders have to be shader graph based to work on Vision Pro? I'm using the shapes library in Unity and it looks like it's not compatible with Vision Pro. Would love to hear about cross-platform shader asset best practices.
I am not a graphics specialist at our company, so I am not sure. I know that we're using a lot of older shaders when we did that move, so we didn't have to like update the URP or anything like that. We're using built-in render pipeline still for the Vision OS. We did have to fix some shader issues though, but not too many.
Okay. Okay. I know that Alex is on the more also on the that part side. Maybe he can answer in his part. Let's continue with the next one. I had ChatGPT review the Pico licensing agreements and it raised a bunch of flags around IP. I see many established game studios in their store, so I'm assuming this is just something you have to accept, but looking for any additional insights or learning from that platform. Do you have any experience from Pico's side, ByteDance?
On the Pico,
Yes.
we ported to the Pico. What's the question?
I think they're asking about the IP ownership. Uh, when you share something or publish something on the Pico store, they
Oh,
have some concerns about IP ownership.
that's well, I mean, I think that as a creator, you own the IP. I don't know what the laws are in China, but
Yeah.
uh, that might be a bit above my pay grade because I'm the programmer making the port, so the legality of our title on the Pico platform, I'm not really sure like how they deal with IP ownership there.
Okay, okay. I mean, yeah, this is a little bit non-technical question for us as well. We also don't know. By the
Hmm.
way, so I'm seeing some questions on the chat. Please uh, submit that question in the Q&A tab. So because there are so many discussions happening on chat, it's not easy for us to follow. And there is one more question from Grant Hinkson. Would be great to know what sales look like across platforms. What would you publish to first, second, third, etc.? I don't know, like
Hmm.
is if there's anything that
I don't know. I haven't really been able to pop the hood on any of our sales numbers, but because that's someone else's job. But it's pretty clear to me that Meta is still the biggest game in town. So I'm pretty sure that most of our sales are on the Quest still.
yeah, yeah,
So I think targeting Quest is a no-brainer. You probably want to start there.
exactly because Quest Store is on the market for a long while compared to others. Um, there was actually one more session we did 1 or 2 years ago that were actually showing the numbers from Apple Vision Pro side, but it was really at the beginning stages. But there are so many tweets on X platform that makes these assumptions. So you can literally look at that. That will be very interesting. There's one more question. Is it possible to use Android XR OS on a Meta Quest headset since its core
Yes.
hardware is Android?
Wait,
How could we
Android
do that?
XR?
Where to start?
Android XR? I don't think so. I think they could coexist. We're trying to move in that direction though. We want to see if we can get down to one APK on all Android XR on all Android platforms. Um, so what hardware is leading for OpenXR? That would probably be the Quest is probably our best that's the device that we optimize for. So that's usually the one that's doing the best in that situation. But the Vision OS is extremely powerful. It's like basically a laptop
Yeah,
hardware in your headset. And
exactly, exactly.
making your builds on Mac OS is also kind of amazing because making a build for a vacation simulator takes like 30 minutes, but on the Mac it takes like 2 minutes.
Wow, so powerful. Yeah. That's amazing. But on the Unity side, of course, deployment on a Mac is like if you are doing for Quest, right? Deployment on a Mac is a little bit not ideal compared to a PC. So every platform has its own hardware development hardware, development environment requirements. So yeah, I think everyone should have Mac and PC, Windows PC at home or in their studio to make sure that they can deploy to cross-platform. And for
Hmm.
Android question, previous question, our team can share some links that we did for Android native building on Quest. So you can also look at that special SDK. As you know, we have there's a competition going on right now from Meta. So if you would like to build natively on Android, our team can share the link of that competition as well as this special SDK thing. So this is the only
Hmm.
way that we know of that you can build natively on Quest. There is one more question from Justin. Is cross-platform porting a service? Know of any providers offering this? Sounds like quite an effort. So, like, are you knowing any kind of company doing this?
No, we handle all that stuff in-house.
Exactly. So this is
We
something
might get
that
like luck.
actually, yeah,
Yeah.
I can answer to that because we have actually done an open lecture with one of these porting companies. They actually did this Green Hell VR game. So now I will share with you the link of that. So it will be very interesting for you because, but these are very, I would say they are really only working on big IPs. They are not like so much into like a small games, just to let you know, because it doesn't make sense for them to deploy AAA quality or AA quality thing there. Let me find it quickly. I find it. So this one. So Justin, regarding your question, I'm adding the link here for um, porting. Yeah. So you can look at it. It's a little bit like a couple of years ago. It's not like new, but there are many companies like Incuvo who can do this kind of things, portings. There is also flat to VR. I know that they are doing from um, flat games to VR, but it's a little bit different, right? You are asking from Apple Vision Pro or Quest to Apple Vision Pro or vice versa. Perfect. Last question. What would be the advice for developing for Android XR if you don't yet have an Android XR specialized headset? Any simulator or
S-
anything?
oh yeah, I have I should have made a slide on this. Yeah, go ahead and convert your game over to OpenXR because that would be the easiest way to support the device. And then you want to be on Unity 6 as well. Those are both required. And you probably want to get on the latest version, latest public version of Unity 6 right now, because that'll make things a little bit easier. And the thing that I talked about a couple slides ago, the platform toolkit, apparently it's in Unity 6.3. We haven't moved to it yet, but this would give you like save data, achievements, and all sorts of stuff. So if there's any platform that's going to get that pretty early, it'd probably be Android and Quest and stuff. Um, so yeah, I would just go ahead and move to that, do that migration, do OpenXR. And what I said about hand tracking, now if you're a controller-based game, they do have controllers. We didn't have controllers when we were doing the original development of our port. So we'll have to get some now and see if we can do an update. Um, oh, so it sounds like Alex is going to cover some of that too.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I'm also talking with Andrew a lot from Owlchemy, like founder for those who doesn't know him. He's an amazing person who is really like liking to make his team push the limits before
Yes.
even it is launched. So I think porting to an already live platform is something else. But like you guys or Resolution and other a few very courageous studios, you guys are attempting to port something before even it's being released, before the launch date of official launch date of platforms. I think this is the one that really requires a lot of commitment and a lot of work. I'm pretty sure that your first initial developer feedback to them is also helping them to really build their systems much more developer friendly way. So thanks for
Mhm.
supporting the industry as well. It's not like only creating a game of Owlchemy Labs, but it's also defining the pathway or workflow that will maybe pave the way for others.
Uh, yeah, thank you so much. I think that it's a very cool company to be involved with. I mean, we really care about making sure that things are easier for other developers too. So we kind of want to maybe kind of having this level of access to the Android XR team, Google, and Unity during this process was very cool. So we're kind of hopefully make the launch to Android XR a lot smoother for everyone. Um, and yeah, we hope that we see lots of great games on an XR for years to come.
Exactly, exactly. I think it's always good to have multiple platforms. Now Valve is coming as well with Frame, right? So I think all of these things are really important to for the sake of the studios, because then they have actually multiple alternatives that they can get revenue, right? Because every game might work in specific platform, like we see that from AAA titles as well. So I'd like to really thank to Owlchemy Labs and all these flagship studios that really uh, become the North Star of all the community XR studios, game studios as well. Thank
Yeah.
you, Philip, for your time. I mean, right now we have also Arnil side of things that Alex will a little bit enlighten us, because we know that Arnil side is always a little bit more how can I say, behind the doors. So Alex will definitely open the doors for us for this. If if you would like to stay, Philip, you can. Otherwise, we will also answer the questions on that. But I think if someone wants to ask questions to you, maybe they can ask on the Q&A that you can answer. Otherwise, we will continue with the Unreal one. But Alex, is it okay for you that we can take over now for the Unreal side?
Yeah. Yeah, very happy to take over.
Thank you
Thanks
for
so much,
joining.
Philip. I thought that was a wonderful talk and very amusing.
Oh,
I think this is going to be a good peanut butter and jelly sort of thing because we've got Unity versus Unreal. We have Alchemy,
Yes.
which is, a larger studio by XR standards and working on games. Agile is very small and much more focused on enterprise. And Philip is very funny and I'm very serious, and you're just going to see me with a straight face this entire time. So I'm going to start with just a little Apple Vision Pro demo. And you're going to see this is very much going to be kind of a Frankenstein sort of talk because I've pulled together different things from different talks and classes I've taught. And then, we're using different headsets. And I love to just like make headsets think that they come from other companies and things like that. I want everyone to get along in the world of OpenXR. So you're going to get a little bit of that spirit here as I begin to share what's going on my side. So I'm in my Vision Pro right now. I'm going to do window sharing. Nope, not window share. Sorry, not window sharing. I'm going to say mirror my view, and I'm going to send it to my MacBook, which is not the computer I'm presenting on. And once that's working, then I can remote into it. And so if I share my screen on my Windows computer, you'll see my MacBook, and I'll just start with a little bit of a live demo because those never go wrong, and it will be great. Here we go. Oh, although actually I'm going to do that again. I already broke things because I forgot to do the audio share thing. Let's do that again.
Yeah,
One more.
share sound on the right. Yes.
Yeah, share. I'll do share sound. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's good. Great. Okay. All right, here we go. Okay. So here you go. You get a little view of my office and some infinite mirror kind of stuff as we see my screen as well. Ugh, crazy. And I'm just going to open up this little Apple Vision Pro app we have. It's on the store. It's called A Christmas Carol VR Teaser. And we've got a nice little portal there for you to buy tickets, though tickets are usually free. And hopefully in front of me right now, you see our little Charles Dickens. And obviously, we made this before PSVR 2 controllers were supported. So this is all hand tracking based, and it's basically like a little snow globe. that gives you a little bit of a teaser of what's going on in the show. I think I might have turned down audio here, or you just can't hear audio right now, but we actually have a little monologue here. It's recorded just using MetaHuman Animator and, the free mocap tools we have at our disposal. I'll show you a slide later on about how we do some mocap using just MetaQuest headsets. But what's cool about this is pretty much a one-to-one port from a test we had already done over in MetaQuest. So, of course, I want to show you today how you can start to bring these things across different platforms using things like OpenXR. But I have this basic system here of like scaling things up and down, grabbing something and moving it around, and then, yes, like rotating from there. And if you're grabbing the world, you're doing, everything, but you can also grab particular objects. And if you grab a particular object, and you scale that up or down, if he's big enough for me, then you can do that as well. There we go. So I put my Charles Dickens there on my desk. If I want, I can also make him into a bit of a bobblehead, although his beard does light on fire, so you have to be careful. Everything here is very flammable. You have to be careful. I'll put Dickens over there. But yeah, if I were to take the fireplace here and just have it like start to touch all the furniture, it very quickly goes from a happy Christmas event to something that's a little bit more of a nightmare. But we just thought this would be like a fun little sandbox. People can like put a little tree in their room and start to grab some ornaments if they want. They can decorate their tree, things like that, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, for anyone who has a Vision Pro, this is on the store. We never bothered to actually put this on the MetaQuest store, but we can do that as well. And, just a little preview of what it's like to have all these things working together with very little effort in that porting process. So just a teaser a bit of what I'll be talking about. So let me go ahead and get out of Splashtop there. And I'll go ahead and start my presentation, which is going to be on the wrong screen to start, because that's what always happens. And we go swap. Okay, so then, yeah, just to show you very briefly, like this was the original version that we had inside MetaQuest, and it looks pretty much the same. In fact, pass-through is actually something we added into the Apple Vision Pro version, but now it's actually very easy to do that in MetaQuest as well. OpenXR pass-through is now supported in Unreal Engine as of 5.6. You'll see a slide about that. You hear a little bit of the audio here too. We got like music and everything. Another fun thing I didn't make mention of is we have a little counter in here that tells you when the next live performance of Christmas Carol is going to be. Anyway, scooting right along. So yeah, very happy to be here. Thanks to XR Bootcamp and everyone who invited me over. Real joy to be presenting alongside Owlchemy Labs, who I have such tremendous moderation. That's not the right word. Admiration for. I have to moderate my admiration. It's because it's so great. And excited to talk to you guys in this very hodgepodge sort of way of what can basically be boiled down to hooray for OpenXR. Thanks to the fine folks at Kronos Group and all the cool things happening at OpenXR and some of the rebels over at Unreal Engine who don't play by the rules at Epic Games. We've got some pretty cool capabilities now using OpenXR, and we're going to talk about them. And I will be talking very fast just because me talking at the speed you hear me speaking right now is me trying my very best to slow down. If I talk like this in a way where you can understand every word I'm saying, it's torture for me. So typically what I tell people is like, if you have the good fortune to be watching a replay of me speaking, slow it down, find that little playback speed button, bring it down to 0.5 or 2.25. Because if I was actually speaking naturally, it would be something more like this. And I'd be like, hey, everyone, really good to see you. I'm at school and I work at Agile Lens and I do all this cool learning stuff on Unreal Engine. And then that would be a nightmare. So this is me doing my best to slow down. That's me, kind of. Yeah. I go by eyebrows on most handles. Why? Because I've had eyebrows that were prominent my entire life, and so that was like an internet handle I came up with when I was like 11, and here we are, many years later still using that handle. Just a few quick things about me and what I get up to. I run an XR studio in New York City, very boutique, very small, called Agile Lens. We're about 4 to 5 full-time staff, and then we've got a few contractors who help us out with different things. In addition to running Agile Lens, I am an Unreal Engine authorized instructor, Gold Star, and a Silver Star authorized training center, the only one in Manhattan, which means we're the best and also the worst. I also have a podcast called the Unofficial Unreal Engine Podcast, which has cool guests, and we talk about how did they make Stranger Things for Broadway and fun things like that. And I've talked to, Corey Williams and Corey Strasberger about all the crazy metahuman stuff they've done. And those are fun interviews if you're interested in listening to something while you do laundry. I also now run the Unreal Engine New York City meetup group. It's a very cool meetup group. We have our next one coming up on December 4th in partnership with the School of Visual Arts. We'll have some really awesome talks about virtual production and live theater presented by one of my colleagues, as well as video games. So that will be cool. And there's going to be a holiday party. Just if there's like two people in this call who are in New York City, there's going to be a very cool holiday party in New York City, I think on December 16th or 17th, which is being brought to you by all the cool New York City XR groups. There's AWE and XR Guild and Unity NYC and Unreal NYC. And I'm sure there's others I'm forgetting, but all cool people. Anything else there? Nope, those are all the major things. And then very briefly, I speak a lot, not just in this moment right now as I'm speaking, but in events, conferences. I'm a kind of a fixture of Unreal Fest at this point all over the world. In fact, my talk at Unreal Fest Stockholm, which is called I Wish I Learned This Sooner Part 2, just dropped on Unreal Engine's YouTube channel, I think yesterday. So if you like what I'm throwing down in this flyby of stuff today, it's sourced from a lot of these other talks. And of course, as an authorized training center, we're always very happy to teach all this stuff in more detail. This is kind of a hodgepodge of Unreal Fest talks and two different 2-hour courses that I teach with Epic Games. As an authorized instructor, I also have a partnership relationship with Epic Games. I develop course content for them. In fact, I should mention, I used to be a Unity developer from 2012 to 2019 was kind of when I went full Unreal Engine. And so we actually just created a course that will be on Unreal Academy called Transitioning from Unity to Unreal Engine for anyone who wants to kind of just explore, what they have in common, what they have different. They don't need to be enemy engines. I think it's great to know both. And I'm trying to learn some Godot right now. So, that's how that Godot's. What's Agile Lens? Real quick, Agile Lens crafts a variety of immersive experiences across the real and virtual world. We do a lot of fun, spectacle, live event things. My background, I should mention, is as an architect, not a coder, nothing in video games or anything like that. I was an architect who started using virtual reality in 2013 with the Oculus Rift DK1, which is behind my theatrical green curtain. And we used it for sightlines. You see a picture right here. David Geffen Hall, which we worked on for many years with our sister company, Fisher Dax Associates. This is us mocking up a bunch of the balconies and actually having some different railing options. So when you would lean over in VR on these different rails, you could actually get a different sense of vertigo and get a sense of sight lines. And I really got to twist my neck here. Let's adjust the seat and have that be reflected in the final architecture design. We do a lot of live events. The little teaser you just saw on Apple Vision Pro, that is to attract people to our free live Christmas Carol show that we do in Quest every year. By next year, we plan to use the magic of OpenXR to open that up to other headsets, but right now it works across all Quest platforms, and you can just download the app and come see a free show. There's going to be 15 performances, xmascarolvr.com. More slides on that coming up. And then the top just shows the kind of random sorts of things we get up to. This was a VR hot air balloon ride for Royal Caribbean. And that was also a port of another one. There was the question during Philip's Q&A about how do you find companies and whatnot to do porting? We're doing more and more of that these days. We've found that there's a lot of companies that are interested in giving us a very heavy, there are two different directions of this, a very heavy Unreal Engine project that they want to bring to standalone. And so we'll help them with optimizing that and getting it to run on standalone, like this Royal Caribbean project. And then the other direction, of course, is someone who says, hey, we have a MetaQuest project. We're trying to get it to run on Apple Vision Pro. And we're, of course, happy to help with that, either in an education and teaching capacity or just num, 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 give us everything you've got and we'll do it ourselves. A couple quick things about Agile Lens. We've got these fun sister companies. I used to work at Fisher Dax Associates. That's when I was a theater architect. And you can imagine how virtual reality was useful for, checking sight lines and doing all those things to make sure the theaters we were designing are quite nice and lovely and comfortable to sit in. But then it also became really useful as a previs tool. Let's mock up, Kenneth Branagh's Macbeth as it comes to the Park Avenue Armory, which is a giant New York City block of a venue. And we put in different elements of the set design and the lighting design and the actor blocking. And oh my God, there's this huge fight going on over there and half the audience isn't going to see it. And we know that now because we checked in VR. And so now we adjust things and modify it and then everything's better. So Fisher Dax Associates, Fisherman Stone, and Third Eye, those companies all have in common Jules Fisher, who is a 9-time Tony Award-winning Broadway lighting designer, and as he branched out along with his partner Peggy Eisenhower into the world of architectural lighting and helping to design theaters, that's how those companies grew. And then Agile Lens, in very much a pay it forward kind of way, grew out of FDA as we started to do more and more virtual reality work that we realized could benefit a lot more than just architects and designers working on theaters and theater. Yeah, cool. And some of our clients and partners, fun. Okay. And I wanted to mention, yes, so the moment, kind of the nexus moment for us where we realized like, oh, okay, we've kind of figured out now how to optimize and port things and kind of move across the whole ecosystem of how Unreal Engine can work, is when our good friend Cameron Kostopoulos, who created this lovely piece called Body of Mine, which won all the awards. I had done some like light consulting for him. He was like fresh out of ASU and like trying to build this thing on his own. And it was a very heavy PC VR experience in Unreal that required Steam VR trackers, Vive trackers, and all that. And I was like lightly advising him on like some of the things to do in the project. Then he was lucky to get a fairly substantial Rockefeller grant to bring the project to MetaQuest, which is totally different from PC VR, Vive trackers. And he kindly asked if Agile Lens wanted to help him bring this to MetaQuest. And we said, well, we've never dealt that much with optimization, but we're going to figure it out. And so we spent a big chunk of time last year, like learning all the ins and outs of bringing a heavier Unreal Engine project, not just from, PC VR to standalone VR, but also from, one platform to another, something that was much more in the Steam VR ecosystem, again, using Vive trackers, to something that could use like the Meta Movement SDK and these other ways to have this same kind of full body experience as you go into Body of Mine. Check it out on the store. So now we're going to see like a couple of objectives that are being grabbed from some of the courses that I teach about this. So like when I do like a let's get started with building Unreal Engine, OpenXR, standalone VR projects, like these are some of the things that we kind of go through. We're not going through all this in the 25 minutes or so that I'm going to keep talking, but I thought it would still be useful to just kind of see what this curriculum tends to look like as we kind of help people digest how to make their way through the world of VR and Unreal Engine. Already heard plenty about OpenXR, but we really love everything about OpenXR. I came very close to crossing out Magic Leap here and doing LOL, but Magic Leap actually still around. They're still selling the headsets, even though it seems like they're kind of winding down. And Magic Leap 1 and 2 still do support OpenXR, so I'm leaving them on the list for now. Horizon OS, of course, is what Oculus and Meta use, and we keep hearing rumors about other headsets that might use Horizon OS as well. Steam VR, of course, anything that's doing PC VR is going to be using Steam VR, or has the capability to use Steam VR, even if it's not required. Meta, of course, you can use Oculus Link. Been hearing some interesting things about SteamOS and Steam Frame. Of course, Steam Frame is going to be a PC VR first headset, so that'll be through Steam VR. But we're very curious, like, will you be able to get OpenXR, to work with like building something standalone to just run on the headset? And I'm hearing yes. I don't know if it's true. I can't confirm it, but I put it on the list anyway. And then Android XR, of course, which we'll talk a little bit about, though most of what I'm going to say about Android XR today is thank you to Owlchemy Labs for helping us figure out how to get open Android XR working on the headset. Working on Android XR, working in Unreal Engine, then onto a Galaxy XR, which we do have. Yes, of course, Windows Mixed Reality is pretty much dead. There is still kind of an open source community way to still get the headsets to work, even though like Windows tried to kill it. But of course, when you're bouncing between different headsets, the biggest like, oh, I forgot to do that thing that I think still happens is setting the correct OpenXR runtime, because you can lose input and all sorts of weird things can happen if you're launching the VR experience with the wrong runtime. There's also some cool tools out there like the like OpenXR runtime switcher, where rather than having to find all the places where you change runtimes, like Vario has their own, and Virtual Desktop like kind of has its own as well. It's just like a one-stop shop to be able to say, this is the OpenXR I want to use right now. If anyone wants to drop in the chat a link for OpenXR runtime switcher, that'd be cool. There's also some other ones out there. They're all great. So when you're in Unreal Engine, there's the little Owlchemy logo there. When you're in Unreal Engine in the plugins manager, which is kind of like the package manager in Unity, this is where you find all the cool things you want to enable in your project. So if you type in OpenXR, you'll see a nice little list. This one, Android XR, OpenXR, is not actually going to be available to the public yet. Owlchemy, again, very kindly had created this plugin, but they use Unity. That's okay. They've done some stuff in Unreal too. And they gave us this plugin, and now Agile Lens is currently putting together a template that we will then release to the public, including Owlchemy's plugin that will allow anyone to very easily have an OpenXR focused way to do Unreal Engine projects for Galaxy XR and any other Android XR headsets that might be coming down the line. One fun thing to note is like if you want your Unreal Engine project to work in PC VR at least, literally the only thing you need to do is take any Unreal Engine project, enable the OpenXR plugin, restart it. Now it works in VR. Pretty cool. Because a lot of times it's not even that you necessarily are building a VR project. We run into this a lot with, the theater world and previs and all that. Like the end result might have nothing to do with any of these technologies, but it can be so tremendously beneficial just to put on a headset and feel like you are human scale in that space. Architecture, theater, VR, these are all spatial experiences where you want to feel what it's actually like in that environment at human scale. We'll talk about some of these other plugins here as well, like XR Scribe. That's a cool one. And then, you can build your own OpenXR plugins as well. We're starting to create a few from some newer extensions from the OpenXR 1.1 prescription. That's not right. Documentation, APIs, et cetera, et cetera. And then, so what are some of the things that Unreal Engine 5 can do in VR? Most of these are kind of like OpenXR specific things. I also took that screenshot of my Apple Vision Pro PS5 test before the PlayStation controller actually created like its own pass-through. Now you would actually see the PlayStation controller. But what we have here is in the upper right image, we've got the VR scouting mode. This started in Unreal Engine as a full VR mode of the editor. It used to be called VR Editor, and it was a way to actually just like do all the things you could do in Unreal Engine, but from within VR. I thought it was super cool. From what I'm told by my friends at Epic Games, I was like the only person who used it, so it became deprecated. And now they've made it a little bit more virtual production focused. So it's more about like laying out a dolly track and laying out shots and that kind of stuff. So that's what it is now. But it also gives you all the pieces and bits and parts. So if you wanted to create your own VR mode based in the editor for actually creating your experience, you can. So that's there. A couple quick things here I want to mention. Yes, multiple headsets. Hand tracking, yes. So if you do OpenXR hand tracking, that kind of goes everywhere. I'll say it now in case I forget to mention it later. So the cool thing about Apple Vision Pro is Apple Vision Pro technically doesn't support OpenXR. You won't see Apple on that Kronos Group registry for OpenXR. However, because Epic Games and Apple don't really talk to each other right now for reasons, the cool folks at Epic Games, and there's cool folks at Apple too. I like both of them. I feel like a marriage counselor sometime when I'm talking to each side, being like, we all want the same thing. But the OpenXR, there's a Vision OS OpenXR plugin for Unreal Engine, which shouldn't exist again because Apple doesn't support OpenXR. So what the guys at Epic did was they created an OpenXR plugin that basically forwards all of the more native like Apple signals about like what's going on with hand tracking and all that and pushes them through into the OpenXR libraries, which mean that the same kind of hand tracking, gesture pinching, et cetera kind of stuff that I might set up for MetaQuest means I can also do exactly the same thing in Apple Vision Pro. And because Apple Vision Pro right now for Unreal Engine doesn't have like a play in editor mode where you can like directly see your Unreal Engine project live in Apple Vision Pro, what's quite nice is because it works so well across that OpenXR spectrum is it means that I can be in my fake Apple Vision Pro, in my MetaQuest 3, I can be basically deving an Apple project directly in here using PC VR, which is great. So I can just be an editor, move some things around, change some test hand tracking, change hand tracking, change adjustments, and then, I'll push that over source control over to my MacBook, package it on the MacBook because it still needs Xcode and all those libraries. And then it's all pretty much going to work as I expect in Vision Pro, which is quite nice. A couple other things here. Yeah, pass through, mixed reality stuff, metahuman motion capture. Yeah, we'll see some slides on this stuff, so we'll skip right along. Boy, that got very compressed. But a lot of people don't know that Lumen and Nanite actually work in PCVR. Yeah, they look great. This is actually an older video I made back in 2022. But now in Unreal Engine 5.7, we have like Nanite foliage and all these things that actually allow for much more optimized. Ooh, what a fun frame for that to freeze on. Oh, everything froze. Oh God. Everything froze for a second. Sorry about that. Don't freeze again. Don't freeze again. Okay, we'll just leave it there for a second. Nanite, Lumen, they're heavy. They take up a lot of RAM. I don't see a near future where they're working on standalone, but it's an incredible way to experience VR inside Unreal Engine with a very photorealistic project. For someone who's like, that doesn't look photorealistic, what I'm showing is the Nanite visualization where you get this pixel level LOD system where all the triangles and everything get figured out automatically, if you will. And it means that even if you're not particularly technical, as long as you're speccing beefy enough PCs, which, in the enterprise space, we're fortunate enough to usually be able to do if we're working with a company that, is going to be doing a very enterprise simulation for, let's say, like an aircraft or something like that. It's not very much to be like, oh, please make sure all your computers have RTX 5090s. Obviously, if you're developing a game for general consumers, you might not have that luxury. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why I made that transition from Unity to Unreal Engine personally, was I started to find that the benefits of what I could do in the enterprise space with targeting more higher photorealism and being able to spec higher hardware was really useful for the kinds of clients that I was attracting. Okay, and so when it comes to Nanite, though, and Lumen and all that, you might be like, wait, yeah, can I do that in VR? I already spoiled it. I told you you can't, not on standalone VR. Yes, on PC VR, not on standalone VR. But Unreal Engine does a nice job where it will automatically, I'm going to keep saying automatically change everything to run on standalone. So this was a little test map I did in the Unreal Engine VR template where I did 500 million triangles of just like this very heavy piece of geometry. I turned on Nanite. It ran fine on desktop. It looked good. And then I didn't change anything. I just packaged that from Unreal Engine to Quest, which, by the way, for those who don't know, the VR template in Unreal Engine, as long as you've got your Android environment set up correctly, it will build to Quest and PC VR out of the box. You don't have to change anything. So, when you're looking to get started, open up that VR template as a test to make sure your development environment is set up correct. Just try packaging to things, and that at least tells you like you're off to the races. Same thing with Apple Vision Pro, by the way. There's a couple little things I've got a slide about where you need to adjust the VR template, but it's good to start any Unreal Engine VR experience, probably Unity too, by just making sure that things can build correctly before you start getting really complicated. Anyway, what I was going to say here is Unreal Engine automatically decided to turn off Lumen, disabled Lumen, reverted back to baked lighting, which I'd already done, and automatically disabled Nanite. And I didn't even do this on my end. It automatically created what are called proxy meshes, these like lower LOD versions of all the meshes, so that it could run more performantly on Quest. Pretty cool. Ideally, of course, if you've got any level of technical prowess, like you'd be finagling that and fine tuning it and adjusting it and massaging it and refining it. But the fact that this basically could give me a comparable experience on PC VR and standalone Quest with me doing nothing was kind of cool. And yeah, this is an Unreal Engine 5.1. I should try this again, see what happens now, many, many versions later. Okay, just wanted to show a little bit of kind of this mocap pipeline. This was for a hackathon for Vision OS last year. And what I did was I used MetaQuest 3 to do the body tracking. So getting my hands and the general body movement using the Meta Movement SDK, same thing we used for Body of Mine. And then I used MetaHuman, not MetaHuman, I used LiveLink Face, which is an app, to do all the facial capture and kind of mix them up together while, playing back each one. So I had it for reference. Nowadays in Unreal Engine 5.6 and 5.7, you don't even need to use this app. Any webcam will give you like a machine learning, like we're going to figure out exactly what the tongue is doing based on the waveform. It'll give you really high quality facial capture just using any video source at all. My dream, and Epic knows this, and everyone knows that I'm trying to do this, is to be able to get like the cameras from something like Galaxy XR or MetaQuest Pro. Galaxy XR in many ways is MetaQuest Pro 2 to me, to get those cameras to actually be able to forward that data directly to Unreal Engine, so you could get all this kind of live. But yeah, so that's how, that's our cheap, free, easy way to do some mocap. And then that mocap data, whatever we've done using Unreal Engine's take recorder, blah, 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 we can propagate that across all sorts of other platforms. Yes. So just to speak a little more briefly about Christmas Carol VR, which you saw that little preview of at the beginning, this started as a PC VR only experience. Not only PC VR only, cloud PC VR. We started this in 2021 as a collaboration with Actors Theater of Louisville, and the only way you could experience the show was by side-loading our our custom XR, or sorry, hold on, loud for me. I don't know if it's loud for you. We had to have everyone sideload our custom NVIDIA Cloud XR app so that when people came to see the show live to get this level of fidelity, they would be streaming the VR experience from RTX A6000 computers in the cloud, which was cool. It was great for the people it worked for and who had a high enough internet connection, but certainly wasn't accessible and easy, and things would crash for people even just on individual VMs. So now, fast forward years later, this is like the newest, latest stuff we're doing in Unreal Engine. This is a very new slide. I just put together this slide today because we are using what Unreal Engine has called the replay system, which is typically made for, like, you're playing a first-person shooter game and you had some awesome snipe and then you get to see it play back a minute earlier. We're now using that for live performance. So first of all, this is our Christmas Carol show running totally standalone in Quest. And not only can we have the live show happen now, we can also record the live show. Oop, I see everything freezing. Is my camera okay? My camera looks frozen. I lost it. Okay, hold on one sec. Da, ba, ba, ba. Sad computer. Waiting for connection. I don't know. Oh, you know what? It's my cat. My cat did it. My cat stepped on my router and made this sad. Okay, great. We're gonna be back in a second here. Right. Hello. Hi. Yeah. Tripod. I'm using a phone as a webcam, by the way, which is really useful for MetaHuman Animator as an easy way to, do your facial capture from your phone, but no need for an app. It's just acting as a webcam. Right. So what I was saying here is this is all running on MetaQuest, works on MetaQuest 2 and above compared to RTX A6000s before. And not only do we get to do the live show where you're seeing all the actors live and it's very immersive theater and you're right there with them and you can scale the world up and down and fly and teleport and speak to the actors, and there's a Q&A after the show, which is fun. We also can record literally everything happening during the live show. And I mean everything the actors are doing, all the cues, all the audio, and just play it back. It's amazing too. Like, this is one of those like black magic things where it's like, I have no idea how Unreal Engine does this. The replay file we get from like an hour-long show is like 100 megabytes. And I bring this up primarily on this OpenXR talk to say that as far as we've been able to tell so far, that replay file can transfer to other devices. So, like, our actors are using the Meta Movement SDK to do their performance. They're not in mocap suits or anything like that. But how cool is it that we could allow, Apple Vision Pro or Galaxy XR, before we port the entire live show over to them, to be able to at least experience the replay, because that replay doesn't know that elements of that were recorded with the Meta Movement SDK or anything like that. It just sees raw mocap data. So yeah, cool way to like be able to bring a copy of all this live performance and this live show stuff over to other platforms. And yes, get your tickets at xmascarolvr.com. Okay, and then the little video that's going to play in the background here on the right is a slightly more unconventional way to deal with targeting multiple platforms. Again, this probably isn't going to work well if you're trying to develop a game, but more enterprise use cases, absolutely. So OpenXR can pair with WebXR, can pair with pixel streaming, and you can actually end up with an experience that is running on beefy computer with an RTX 5090, maybe in the cloud, maybe locally. And then because of the OpenXR side of it and the WebXR side of it, it's in a browser. So what you're going to see here is that's desktop. I'll skip ahead a little bit. This is me inside my Quest. And so in my Quest, I'm going to a browser, no app at all, So like a WebXR experience, I'm specifying the, the resolution and the bit rate and all that, which ideally would happen automatically. This is from our friends over at LarkXR who helped me put together this demo. And as I skip through the video, what you're going to see is it's Christmas Carol, but I'm running it on MetaQuest 3, MetaQuest Pro, and Apple Vision Pro. And what's fun is when I leave the experience, when I quit, because it's the same experience running on that cloud computer, I literally just pick up from where I left off. And there's some like good auto translation of hand tracking to like our controller inputs. But it's a very cool way to be like, hey, go to this web link, whatever headset you're in, as long as it supports WebXR, you're going to be able to experience the show. So yeah, so hold on. First I was in Quest 3, and then you'll see me in Apple Vision Pro, and then you'll probably see me in Quest Pro there at the end. So yeah, just a very cool like handoff sort of thing to another way to bring your experience to people. And then I mentioned on the slide here that for standalone, OpenXR is going to be your best friend. Just anything that is set up to be OpenXR and not platform specific, third party specific SDKs, that's going to make it very easy to jump from device to device to device. On the PC VR side, ALVR, virtual desktop, the Steam VR things are going to be cool. And then, yeah, this is the WebXR, OpenXR, pixel streaming experimental method to do that. We're working with a contractor right now who knows ALVR really well, and we're developing like a custom fork of it that is using a lot more of the OpenXR extensions, which for those who don't know, I'm just going to pull up that's not it. Yeah, the web page of it over here. Because the thing is, if you look at what the Kronos registry has for all the various OpenXR extensions, you'll see things that are like specific to Meta and all that. But also, Meta is actually starting to deprecate their own custom APIs here in favor of the OpenXR ones. Things like marker tracking, spatial anchors, things like that are headed in a direction where you're just going to be using the raw OpenXR versions, which then means, again, even for something like, you'll see a slide in a minute about our crazy Four Seasons photoreal luxury co-located VR wireless real estate experience. And like right now, that's using a fair amount of like meta specific things, but very soon we'll be able to do that across any headset we want in a PC VR capacity because of the way that we can use ALVR with some of these custom OpenXR extensions to do things like co-locate everyone inside the same experience at the same time. Okay. We're going to see some random slides right now. This is almost like a quick tips thing. Mac is cool. I didn't know that. Mac, actually, Unreal Engine runs great on it. If you're using a silicon chip, if you're using M2 or later, Lumen and Nanite works. Macs are quiet. I didn't start using a Mac ever in my life until I got a Vision Pro and had to. And I'm surprised how often I am actually developing in on the Mac directly with Unreal Engine. And then I'll use, Parsec or whatever, and I'll stream into my PC if I need to, if I'm doing something heavier. But like I'm using my MacBook way more now than any Windows laptop I've ever used in my life. And I, again, remote into PCs when I need to. And Xcode, this is a little bit hidden, but for some reason, Xcode compiles things way faster than other PC things. Like I can build a fresh source build of Unreal Engine or the VR template or whatever, like in maybe a third of the speed of one of my like beefier desktop computers. I don't know why. I don't know how. It just works. Just mentioning that sometimes when you are building something for other platforms, there's different ways to go about it, because if you're optimizing from like a heavy experience to a lighter experience, you might start to convert some elements to like a 3D movie, for example. This was a live test, seeing what I could do here on my desk as I like start to bring things in together. I made like a simple little HLSL shader thing to do like, here's what the left eye sees, here's what the right eye sees as you bring in 3D video. But because Unreal Engine can look so gorgeous, and you're not always going to be able to remember, you're not always going to be able to render that level of realism on a standalone device, sometimes it makes sense to convert those things to, video spheres or little 3D videos, and then kind of mesh that in with the things that are more local, that you want to render locally, like the actual environment. VR preview of two eyes. Philip had mentioned a little bit about like how you don't always want to be in VR all the time, and we find that using things like the emulator, there's stereo emulation in Unreal. There's a lot of different ways to get two eyes to come up together. That's a good way without necessarily putting on the headset to be able to like move through the experience and get a sense of what both eyes look like. Really useful shortcut is the semicolon in Unreal Engine, which basically ejects you out of whatever pawn or character you're in at runtime, and now you're just in God mode and you can fly fly around and do whatever you want, and still see the world and the environment. So yeah, and then also it's always good to be able to see two eyes if there's a bug. Like a lot of stuff in Unreal Engine, new features, new exciting features like megalights will lag behind a little bit in VR. You'll put on a VR headset and you'll be like, oh, it looks great in my left eye, looks terrible and nightmarish in my right eye. And if you're trying to do a bug report to Epic or something like that, it's good to be able to show the difference between each eye. I just found a bug the other day where there's a new ray trace translucency system in Unreal Engine, which makes one eye at a time hang like those pendulum things or whatever, and that's an incredibly uncomfortable experience. So like I wanted to make sure Epic knew right away, hey, this feels terrible in VR, let's try to fix it. And they do, by the way. OpenXR pass-through I mentioned is available in 5.6 plus. There's a couple little lines of code you have to add in your INI file. But then, yeah, this was a test I did with Marshall on my team at Unreal Fest in Orlando, and it was just like, yeah, it's just working now. Like it used to be you needed like more vendor-specific plugins, and now it just works out of the box, which is great and makes it very easy to have these kind of mixed reality experiences across many different devices, including Android XR. Also, the main reason we, for a long time, were using the meta fork of Unreal Engine was because of ASW, Application Space Warp, which is the magical thing that basically like doubles your frame rate and does a really good job interpolating, a less well-optimized experience to make it feel smoother. We got Body of Mine from 60 frames per second, which was like a little to 120 frames per second, where it feels way better. And then we did a little more optimization. It can run at 90 natively, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a great crutch to lean on if you need to lean on it. Now, starting in Unreal Engine 5.7, you don't need to use Meta's fork to use ASW. Now there is an OpenXR version of ASW that means that you can get that really excellent, frame rate doubling across any device that supports OpenXR. It's not super intuitive to implement right now. It's these two different C bars that you bring into the experience, and it's great now because again, we're trying to move to a place where we don't need to use Meta XR extensions at all. I'll mention briefly for Christmas Carol next year, we're going to try to make it so anyone in any headset across OpenXR can experience the show. We're probably still going to have our actors using the Meta Movement SDK because it's a really good way to, just from a Quest Pro, though who knows, we might go to Galaxy XR. Quest Pro's deprecated and getting kind of old. The fact that a Quest Pro can do eye and face tracking and hand tracking, and we can get this very robust performance from our actors is great. So we might keep them in their own specific, APK branch of the Christmas Carol experience so that they can still use those SDKs, but there's no reason the audience needs to have those Meta SDKs. So when that data gets pumped out through this cool plugin by Charles Alexander on our team that like optimizes all the body data and like spits it back out as like raw bone data to everyone, no one on the audience side needs to experience that through Meta's interpretation of it. So there's no reason we shouldn't be able to make all the stuff work more in an OpenXR kind of capacity. Another project that I was going to pull open just for a minute to show you another kind of like cool OpenXR thing we're doing, and then we'll wrap it up, even though there's like 50 other slides here because I want to give time to questions, is this cool Star Wars thing we're doing. No one has tried to sue us yet, but my team got to go on the Galaxy's Edge, the Galactic Star Cruiser Halcyon experience a couple years ago. And while we were there, oh, hey, we're doing some Christmas Carol tests right now. That is what the stage manager board looks like when we're getting ready for a show. Fun little behind the scenes view of that. But here is the Halcyon experience. Oh, and I brought this up as a reminder to say that even if you're not targeting Meta, sometimes it's cool to have the Meta XR plugin anyway, because there's this nice little thing in Unreal Engine, Unity has it too, where you go to Meta XR project setup tool, and it just gives you like some little tips where it's like, hey, we noticed maybe you're not using the right Android NDK or SDK, and like maybe you want to disable some of these checkboxes that like aren't going to work great on Quest. And you have these different options where you can check, like I'm targeting Quest 2, Quest Pro, Quest 3, and you can kind of figure out the equivalents if you're doing Pico or whatever. But it's a nice little one-stop shop to make sure that your project is kind of set up to run well on standalone devices. Anyway, just wanted to show you very briefly this like recreation we're doing. This is an open source project. Anyone, any of you can hop into here and start to play with it if you want. We're recreating the Star Wars theater experience. We just demoed it in Orlando a couple weeks ago. It's multiplayer. Not all of the more custom code we've got is in the open source branch, but we've been rebuilding this whole experience and trying to do it in a way that is OpenXR compatible. So, like we're not actually using anything from MetaXR in here. We've got that just to pull up, how optimized are we in that. But this experience is something that we want to make sure can run on Apple Vision Pro and everything else. So in the spirit of open source and OpenXR and all things open, we're starting to build this out in a fun way. Just seeing if there's any other cool rooms we've got in here. That's the cafeteria. We've got some of the bedrooms somewhere. Yeah, that's the bedrooms. It's kind of a cool place to sleep because you just felt like you were out in space. And because many people didn't get a chance to experience this project, it's kind of fun now to have the opportunity to bring this to the world. So if you are interested in participating in this project at all, maybe as a way to get your feet wet with Unreal Engine and explore something that's coming along, it's at github.com/agilens/halcyon VR. Cool. And then a couple quick things about Apple Vision Pro. Yes. So it's, for those that don't know, if you're using Unreal Engine, if you're making less than $1 million a year, I think for Unity, it's like 250K or something like that, you don't pay a dime. So that means that you don't need Unity Pro for like Apple Vision Pro development or anything like that. You can just work on Apple Vision Pro stuff for free. Also, even though there are some limitations with Apple Vision Pro and Unreal Engine right now, the wonderful folks at PolyArc who made Moss 1, Moss 2, and then just came out with Glass Breakers, they actually made a custom fork of Unreal Engine where they've done a lot of cool stuff to be a little bit more like, what's the thing Unity has? Polyspatial or something like that, to have more of this connective tissue to go over to Reality Composer and all these other tools to take more advantage of Apple's native frameworks and SDKs. And so even though, yes, you can do some cool stuff with Apple Vision Pro and Unreal Engine right now, when PolyArc releases their fork, I'm going to have like all sorts of fun pulling that apart. I'll build some learning material. I might release like some course stuff on it, and that's going to be great. But plenty of cool stuff you can do now while you prepare for that. I made this when Unreal Engine 5.4 had come out. Now, of course, we're in 5.7. Everything's working great. It used to be you had to build Unreal Engine from source. You don't have to do that anymore. You can do mixed reality. You can do all sorts of cool things. And you basically just make sure your Apple environment is set up the same way it would need to be. If you were developing any Apple Vision Pro app. And then on the Unreal Engine side, you just open up the VR template and you make sure that you've set up, hand tracking the way you want to with OpenXR. You start with the VR template, you make sure your headset's connected, and then enable the OpenXR plugin for Vision OS. And there's one other thing here that I think is missing. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it was slightly different as we're going from 5.4 to 5.5. I forgot I had two different slides here. Last thing is make sure you put your team name in there. Without the team name, it'll throw like a weird error and you won't know exactly why it didn't build correctly. But from there, you basically can just drag and drop the .app file that gets generated into your Vision Pro. If you want more logging, you can do it by opening up the Apple or the Vision OS Xcode project that gets generated, and then you'll get more logging inside of Xcode as the project is running inside your headset. But it's not necessary. It's actually pretty straightforward now to get all this stuff working in Vision Pro. As you can see me playing around outside. And all the little jaggy pass-through edges, those have been fixed now as well. But I was having fun just playing with like different opacities here of like, seeing the entire world versus parts of the world and then overlapping them. Fun stuff. I'm also really eager to implement the PSVR2 controller support when possible. Yeah, mixed mode by default. You have these are like little nitty gritty kind of things you might want to save in the back of your head for later. In the project settings for Unreal Engine, you have immersive style, 0 and 1. 0 is full immersive VR, like you're not intended to see the real world at all. 1 is mixed mode, so you do see mixed reality and pass through. And then we have upper limb visibility for 0, 1, 2 for like, do you want to see like the hands or like how much of the arm, et cetera, et cetera. So it's nice that those are available there. Yep, I already said this. Usually when I get to this slide, it's a surprise. Oh, my phone died again. Usually when I get to this slide, it's a surprise, but you guys already know now that this is how we talk to Vision Pro. There we go. Great. Hi. Sad phone. I should have put it in do not disturb. These are more quick tippy things. Like if you're going from a heavier project to a heavier Unreal Engine scene to a lighter scene, we used to mess a lot with pixel density, and we'd crank it up to like 1.8 or something if we're on a powerful enough PC experience, and you crank it down to like zero point 0.8 or something like that in a headset. That's a quick way to kind of get some frames back. And most people, depending on who you're showing it to, won't really notice the difference in sharpness. Now it's not pixel density anymore. It's XR, secondary screen percentage, HMD render target, and then the percentage you want, 100 or 150 or 80, et cetera, et cetera. And then I have a couple tips here for getting shadows to be better on standalone. Feel free to look at that in the recording and put those into your project. Make sure your light has a dynamic shadow, just nice shadows on standalone. And then I'll just mention very, very briefly that the Collab Viewer template is a cool thing in Unreal Engine that, let's see if I can actually go into VR here for a second. It's a template. It's something you get out of the box when you start Unreal Engine. Yeah, there's an architecture version, there's an automotive version. It gives you out of the box multiplayer, all sorts of markup tools. Great if you're in a design industry like architecture or something like that. And it gives you a PC mode and a VR mode that you can toggle between in real time, like so, as I get this to turn back on. Come on, Meta. Airlink connection lost. Of course it is. Let's try again. Link, click, launch. There we go. Okay, so I'm in PC VR link mode. And over here in my fresh collab viewer template, this is just what it gives you out of the box. First I'll just hit regular play. So in regular play mode, I'm in the editor. I've got a fly mode. I've got a walk mode. I've got an orbit mode. And I see that VR mode as well. I've got a menu where I can do some fun things like, grab a tree and move the tree. And I can save all this stuff. I can say, I moved the tree. And then I can go between my default state and my I moved the tree state. So pretty robust starting point for anything where you're going to move around design elements or stuff like that. I can import things via Datasmith. I did a whole talk on this at Unreal Fest Orlando this year, so you can watch that. But just want to show there's the regular interface. And then automatically, there's that word again, I can just click VR and I can actually jump into the VR mode. I have to do it in standalone though. I can also do it like this. I can just do VR preview. You can switch between the two, I promise. I just have to do it in a standalone game instead of VR preview. And then from in here, if I click on, whoops, as I drop my controllers, it's just a VR mode of the same thing. And it's a really good starting point if you want to build an experience that can work in desktop mode and standalone mode as well. So you see not all the buttons, but some of the buttons here. Again, I can go to move and I can grab the tree and move the tree. Very fun to do that. And I can, start to X-ray my building a bit, whatever. And I can teleport around, et cetera, et cetera. And then I say, oh, what a lovely building. I will take a snapshot of you. Click. Or can I grab this? I forget how to grab this. Yeah, I grab the camera. I take my picture and it saves a screenshot. Fun. And the main thing I think this template was missing, which again, I cover this in the talk in Orlando, is the ability to have this work on standalone. It's set up for PC VR and desktop, and there's even like a Android or a flat screen version, iOS, etc. But it wasn't set up for Quest. So I did just put together with Marshall on my team just a very quick way of being like, here's how you set it up for Quest. Also, this is kind of the magic nodes you need to swap between a VR mode and a desktop mode all in runtime without changing anything. You go to this node in blueprints for enable HMD, and then you can swap pawns. You can go to your desktop pawn, go to your VR pawn. That's the main thing to take away. Yeah. So then, again, watch the talk for more detail about this, but here's like all the details of how to modify the Collab Viewer template so it can work on a standalone OpenXR device. We got this working both on MetaQuest and Apple Vision Pro. We haven't tried it on Galaxy XR yet, but in theory, it should work too. Great success. And then, yeah, there it is working in Quest. Hi, hooray. Great. OpenXR pass-through, what I mentioned, and then yeah, more about Four Seasons, which we already talked about as well. And then there's probably like 50 more slides. And then yeah, then there's like all the setup stuff, for the much longer version of the talk, how to set up your OpenXR hand tracking, various debugging, various optimizations. Yeah, there's no way this is going to be like a 30-minute talk. But there we go. There's a last thing. Oh, I also meant to put my email on here. Alex@agilelens.com. I do have like a Gumroad Apple Vision Pro Unreal Engine course sort of thing. It's a lot of documentation and videos, and there's a Discord community where we all talk about how to do this properly. And there's a little Black Friday sale. BFF, best friends forever, Black Friday forever, Black Friday friends, etc. at ibrews.gumroad.com. And then, of course, please reach out if you want training, consulting. You've got a project you're trying to port from one platform or device or PCVR to standalone. We love doing all that stuff. So thanks for your time. Thanks for listening. And let's do a little Q&A.
Amazing. Thank you, Alex. This is really nice. Uh, I don't know what can else can fit in 45 minutes of this session. So you really did an amazing speed run, I call it. So that's an amazing. We will definitely make sure that we are sharing the recording with the rest of the community that couldn't make today, but they will definitely watch afterwards. Great, that's great. So I will hand over to you for questions, but we will see each other anyways next week as well for different reasons. But
Yes.
that's great. Thank you for all of these very packed and nice and with all the interesting use cases as well. So great. I now it's time to start using OpenXR. Most people are scared to start OpenXR. Maybe after this talk, people will be more courageous to build things with OpenXR. Things are really getting better and better, right? OpenXR took look at 4 or 5 years ago versus now. I think companies are also a little bit supporting better, right? Better supporting Unreal, better supporting OpenXR. So that's a very nice opportunity. I think we have Philip. Thank you very much, by the way, again for your time. Um, I we would probably want to see Owlchemy Labs in another session when another XR headset is out. Probably Owlchemy Labs will be one of the first ones. So we hope to see Owlchemy Labs in another session in the upcoming months as well.
Oh yeah, just give us a call.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you, Philip. Say hi to Andrew, Dale, and all the rest of the team. Great. Thank you very much, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Alex, you have a few questions, I guess. So if you would like to answer that quickly, I think from
Yeah,
Hisham,
let's
there
try
is
to
one question.
scrub through. Great. Um, whoever said Alex, breathe. Never. I will never do that. Should I be looking in the chat or the question and answer section? I think it looks like most of the ones in the question
Yeah,
and
they
answer
wrote in the
section got
question.
answered.
So
Let's
there is
see.
one question. How close are we to performant mixed reality for Vision OS on Unreal Engine? Even glass breakers felt a bit laggy on M5. Also things like eye tracking and room lighting affecting models. Is that possible?
Yeah, great question, Hisham. So the short answer is the polyarc fork there that they used for glass breakers. I haven't had the chance to try glass breakers yet. I downloaded it yesterday, but my understanding was that they've set up all those things to work. Eye tracking, room lighting, all these things that don't work out of the box with Unreal Engine. So we should be able to do all that with their fork. I'm sad to hear it feels a little bit laggy. Definitely right now in the out of the box implementation you get of Unreal Engine on Apple Vision Pro, it's going through metal. It's like there's all sorts of restrictions on like what it's actually able to do. So like I still have my M2 Vision Pro here, but the M5 like Unreal Engine experiences basically felt the same. The hope is that with the polyarc fork, though, it'll be able to take more advantage of all those native SDKs and resources. Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
muted,
and keep an
Aaron.
eye on, my Twitter or something like that because the moment I get my hands on that, I'm going to be releasing as much information as I can about how to use that properly.
Laura, there is any question that we missed?
No, that's all of the questions. Most of them were for Unity, so Philip already answered them.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. On the way
nice.
that we answered. Perfect, perfect. Yeah, let's see. Perfect. Thank you, Alex, again for your time. I think it was very nice. And for those who are enjoying these kind of sessions, we will have one more um, session, but it's a little bit different for the specifically for the competition. Laura can share one more time the link of that. Alex will be with us along with other experts. As you can clearly see, whenever Unreal related stuff happening in our team, in our community, I'm immediately reaching out to Alex, help us, and then he's so kind to support in any way. Unfortunately, there's not enough Unreal experts on XR out there, so Alex is really the person that actually can help you beyond the documentation, Unreal documentation available out there. So yeah, thank you. Everyone is thanking you. And yeah, Alex also shared a YouTube link. Lara also shared our next sessions link on Tuesday. We will cover everything related with the competition submission, since, as you know, there's a very big competition going on right now. Um, Great. So thank you again, Alex and Laura and the team, Philip. And yeah, looking forward to seeing our community in the next session. And for those who are celebrating, happy Thanksgiving and have a nice holiday. And then see you next week.